Hi, I'm Katie, and welcome to Hey It Gets Better. This is the podcast where I chat to people about the ups and downs of their lives and how they got to where they are now. Life can be pretty tough sometimes, there's no escaping that fact. But at Hey It Gets Better, we're all about talking about the journey. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and remember, hey, it gets better.
Hi Kieran, welcome to Hey It Gets Better. How are you today?
Great, thanks Katie, thanks for having me.
So if you just want to take a second to introduce yourself to everyone listening.
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Kieran S-Lawler. I am I always go by saying I'm just a marketer. I've got a lot of different interests around marketing. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's my passion. That's what I love doing. So I am a marketer. I actually heard a few of these podcasts in the past, Katie, and I think I dropped you a line, didn't I, on LinkedIn, and just wanted to sort of congratulate you in terms of saying like how well you've done in terms of putting them together, and really enjoyed listening to them. And then I was fortunate enough for you to get back to me and say let's have a chat. So I appreciate you having me, mate.
Oh yeah, of course. I actually remember you. Whilst I was in university, I did something called the Digital Marketing Challenge. And I went to the agency where you were working, Hallam, and you gave a presentation all about social media. And I just remember we had to do like a really cool challenge and everything. So when you reached out to me, I was just flattered. I was like, oh, it's the guy who had done like stuff to do with like, I think you did something like a cheese Easter egg and everything marketing campaign. And I was just super flattered when you reached out to say that you liked the podcast as well.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. Yeah, I mean, the amount of I remember that day actually when it was part of the Digital Marketing Academy, wasn't it? With the universities. Yeah. But yeah, we be doing that again next year. So looking forward to how we'll do it next year, I suppose, with everything that's happening. But I think there'll be less chance for the students to come in the office, but more chance to sort of interact directly online and stuff, which would be an interesting dynamic. But it's always great working with the universities and things on stuff like that. But yeah, I've had a few sort of marketing highlights so far. I mean, I haven't been doing marketing for a whole long time from a professional point of view, but I've had quite a lot of award wins. I've had some really quirky products, like I think the cheese advent calendar was a really cool one, which I pushed through. Yeah, I mean, there's a story to that, but we'll probably cover it a little bit later on. About how I got that signed off eventually, from people laughing at me the first time I mentioned it to becoming this big, massive, project.
So I think your story really is a Hey It Gets Better story. I remember from when we were last speaking, you were talking about how, you were working when you were 16 and you were sort of like, I remember saying you worked for Audi and things like that. And now you've come all the way to be promoted to head of marketing at an award-winning marketing agency, Hallam, which is just amazing. So if you'd just like to kind of say, a little briefly how you got to where you are now, because I know there's so much interesting stuff involved.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll give you a brief overview, and then please ask me any details on the areas that you find interesting, because to me it's sort of just been a bit of a ride for the last maybe 10, 15 years or something. So I think I actually started working. I was always one of them kids who were like trying to get jobs somewhere, like washing people's cars for like 20p. To go down to the corner shop when you've washed like 5 cars throughout the day with your pounds and waste it on sweets and things like that. So, that was always like sort of ingrained in me growing up. And I think I got my first summer job when I was like around 13, 14, like a few days a week, just to earn a bit more pocket money. And then I got my first sort of, if you class like my first real job, when I would turn 16 in retail. And that was sort of like, I think it was like a Saturday job, or, a Saturday, Sunday job if I was lucky. First time sort of being in front of customers and having to engage with people for work, and, really enjoyed that. It was in like I think it was in like a surfwear brand in Liverpool, which probably, surfing's not that hot in Liverpool, but there was some other elements to the brand which are really cool. So yeah, done that for a little while, and then that was whilst I was doing my GCSEs. And I think whilst I was doing my GCSEs, I always had a fondness of business studies. I had a fondness of how businesses work. I was always sort of asking questions around that. And then um, I decided to carry on doing business studies into A level, where I got my second job, which was also in retail, but it was my first sort of team leader job in retail as well. Um, and then, as well as that, I was pushing for like MVQs whilst I was doing it. And I think I'd done my first MVQ whilst I was in university, and it was a 9-month course. I managed to do it in 3 months just because I was sort of at that point in my life where I just wanted to like soak up as much knowledge as possible. And yeah, went to university after doing my A levels to study marketing. It was actually a question for myself: is do I go and study marketing, or do I go and study philosophy? And one of the things that has been underlying the majority of my decisions in life, especially when it comes to a professional point of view, is which one do I think I'll enjoy more? And whilst I really enjoyed philosophy in terms of the studying aspect, there was just something about marketing which really grabbed my fancy. And I thought, if I study marketing, I can at least give it a go at being a marketer, and I think I'll really enjoy that. So it's worth a go. So I did that, and then at university, as you mentioned, done the placement scheme with Aldi, which was, I probably got that because of all my retail experience. In all honesty, it was a retail graduate scheme. A retail placement scheme. I remember it was just it was a mad one. It's a great company to work for, and you earn like a lot of money. You've got your own company car, but you're still a student. It's a bit surreal, actually. But the amount of opportunities that were presented to me then to really grow professionally were huge. Like running teams of up to 40 people, some days and some nights and things like that. Working to deadlines, traveling around the Northwest, and that kind of thing for that job. And then, managed to graduate. Just before I graduated, I think. And actually, before the Aldi job, I remember speaking to you, Katie. Like, I had 3 jobs at one point whilst I was in.
That's what I was thinking. I remember you saying that you worked like crazy during uni, and I was gonna like ask you how you did it. I mean, it must have been so easy, you forgot.
Yeah, so that was my first year. So within my first year of university, I was literally working. I was working in. So I had I was working on site, and I was also having a retail job, and I also had a job in the chippy in the evening in like a fish and chip store. I was actually talking about the fish and chip store today because it's outside. You'll know this because where you've lived up in Nottingham and in London, but it's very hard to find a fish and chip shop in the UK which has English and Chinese fast food, whereas in Liverpool they're all like that. So it was like I was working in like a fish and chip shop as the front, and then in the back it was like a Chinese takeaway as well. So it was just an amazing place to sort of be, being around sort of different foods and all this. And I got free tea every night as well at work there, so that was amazing. But yeah, those 3 jobs on top of university as well, sort of studying and having to uphold the lifestyle of a proper student and going out every other night and getting drunk and all that kind of stuff as well. So it was busy, but I think it was, I kind of just, I like to stay busy. I think that's how I done it. It was
Yeah.
enjoying the process. It was enjoying the jobs that I worked. It was okay to sort of, burn yourself out because I was quite young, so I didn't really have burnout or nothing like that. And yeah, just sort of kept going. And then, as well as the retail experience, I think that sort of grit and determination and just being a bit of a grafter also helped me to get that placement, because there was a lot of experiences I could lean on outside of my academic studies to then be more preferable in jobs like that placement.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the struggles. I think when you do like get to graduate in uni, that stage, the academic stuff really isn't enough anymore to kind of land yourself, those competitive placements or grad schemes, or even just like a job. Kind of one of those things that it's like you need the degree, but you also need all the other experience as well, which is like the tough one.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like anyone in university at the moment, like the degree is the most important. That should be the main priority. And it always should be. That's going to set you in stone to go in the career path that you want to do. the experience in terms of maybe the jobs that you're working or the charity work that you're doing or anything like that. They're basically professional building exercises, I see them as. So yeah, you need a degree because the degree is going to set you on your path to that sort of career. In my case, it was marketing. So the marketing degree obviously opened the doors to marketing graduate schemes for me. But everything else that happens whilst you're at university, you can obviously lean on. And it doesn't necessarily have to be jobs, to lean on that experience. It could be, I remember I'd done an internship at a marketing agency when I was in university. It was literally 3 months unpaid. So it was still a job, but it wasn't a paid job. That, you gain experiences from things like that, by putting yourself out there. And then just doing like jobs here and there. I remember I was working in it's called the Echo Arena at the time. It's like a big arena in Liverpool where they do all like big events. And I worked a boxing night there, and I thought, oh, this would be great. Like, I love boxing. I used to box a little bit when I was younger, and I'll basically be working a boxing event, and hopefully I get to see a bit of boxing. This will be cool. And I just remember the day, and I was so bored working there. Like, I think I was like on one of the doors, just like asking people not to take the drinks inside. And I was like, oh, surely there's better things to do than this. Some people might enjoy that. I didn't. And, it's one of them reasons why I was like, well, I'm never coming back here again. I think I actually lost money on that job because I had to pay for like my t-shirt and all of us. I had to pay for something else as well to get into it. And because of the amount of hours I'd done, I think I lost a few quid on that. But I thought, I'm not going back because it's too boring.
Yeah, I think as well, like the amount of job, like it kind of goes against this idea, like once you've got a job, if you don't enjoy it, you should just stick to it and do it for the money and things like that. Like, I mean, I know that, I worked in a job that I did not like, and I just stayed in because I needed money.
Yeah.
But there is like other jobs out there, and it's kind of like working out what you value really. And, because sometimes you do need money, and you're going to have to work a job you really don't like if you really need money. But then if you're fortunate enough to kind of have the time to look elsewhere, then it is worth doing.
Yeah, and when I decided to move to London, it wasn't a case of sort of, okay, I don't like the job I'm working in now, I'm going to quit and I'm going to leave Liverpool and move to London. It was a thought out plan. Like, it was a job that I really enjoyed when I started, but I think, naturally everyone who spends a long amount of time in any job sort of starts to lose that excitement. And, it's sort of being able to spot that yourself and then putting a plan in place to make you be able to leave. The example I give in the arena was probably an exception because it was the first day that I was doing it and I knew it wasn't for me. But if you are in that position where you do need the money coming in, and you're sort of not enjoying where you're at in life at the moment, I'm not saying like walk out and never go back. Like, it would be much more beneficial to you personally, and obviously you make decisions to benefit yourself when it comes to the work that you do, is put a plan in place. Like, put a 3-month plan in place where you can start working on your CV, you can start putting a few pennies in the bank, so you've got that sort of week or 2 weeks grace gap in between. Start putting in an hour of an evening, sending out CVs to new companies and all that kind of thing. So I don't think I've ever left a job, just sort of walked out without thinking about the financial implication of it.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice there because, at the end of the day, like, I think as much as we all wish, if you don't like a job, you can just walk out the door. You walk out the door and you're hit with the real world, which is tough. But having a plan in place and, like you said, taking the time to formulate a plan and even just taking evenings to do stuff is really good advice, I think.
Yeah, and sort of speak to people as well. I mean, not necessarily people who you work with, that mightn't be the best idea, but speak to your friends and speak to your family and just ask them for advice. Ask the older people for advice. I really leaned on my uncle growing up from a professional point of view. He finished university about 15 years before me, and he was already well into a professional career, and he'd always be someone who I'd give a call, not regularly, but just every time I needed to sort of explain what was going through my mind from a professional point of view, and sort of, is the next step the right step? And you can find someone like that who's around you within your support network. Like, you're going to benefit from basically just having honest conversations with them, and allowing them to challenge you as well, to put things into perspective. It's not all rainbows and sunshine. When you quit, you got to have that plan in place. But yeah, I mean, that was definitely to take that into account. I think you mentioned earlier about the travel element as well, and
Oh yeah, I definitely want to hear about the traveling.
yeah, I think traveling for me it's something which I'll never stop doing. A lot of people, they are before university, after university, they'll take like a gap year and they'll do like a full year of traveling to go and learn themselves and all that, and that's great. But it wasn't really for me, in all honesty. So I decided to travel for around 3 to 4 weeks after I finished university. And that was basically just a bit of a blowout, get away, get into Europe. I think I've hit 4 countries within the first 10 days. Just basically bit of a rapid fire trip around Europe, because I didn't really fancy doing a full year somewhere. But when I was traveling, I think it was where was I? I was in Czech Republic, in Prague, and I got offered a job by the hostel where I was staying. And I was like, how mad's that? Like, I've literally just left the UK less than a week ago, and now I've been offered the job in a place that I've never been to before. And it kind of opened my eyes to there's more out there than just sort of being in Liverpool as well. So don't get me wrong, I love Liverpool to bits, and I'll definitely end up there when I'm older. When I'm older, I'm probably quite old now compared to yourself. You know what I mean? In the future, I'll definitely end up back in Liverpool. That's where my heart is. But it sort of opened my eyes to think, well, maybe there is like another city or another place that I could go and work for a little while. So yeah, when I got back from my traveling, if you like, it's probably more just like a long holiday, some people call it. But I had my backpack and everything. I was training it for different countries, so it felt a bit travelly. I literally started applying to graduate schemes to the big cities in the UK, in terms of the capital cities. So your London, Cardiff, Edinburgh, Belfast, Dublin. I started applying to all the capital cities, because I thought, well, as much as the people in the hostel were lovely, I don't want to work in a hostel. I don't think I'd enjoy it. But what I know I will enjoy is doing social media. So I basically applied to every single social media graduate scheme I could find, every single digital, every single marketing graduate scheme, which had that element of social in it as well. And then I was fortunately enough to land a graduate scheme in London, and that was the first time I left Liverpool, was to move to London it was a social media graduate scheme, but within about 6 months, or within 6 to 12 months, I was doing a brand management position there. So with digital on the side, if you like. But it started as social, so that's cool.
Yeah, I think that's really good how sort of you kind of got the confidence to leave your own town. I feel like when I left uni, it was so weird, kind of because I'm from London, I lived in London my whole life, and I was like, wow, you leave to go uni, and that's like the first time really, I think, in your life where you're like, there's other towns and things like that and cities that are really amazing.
Yeah.
And I can imagine doing that on a whole nother level with Europe must be just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if you when all this lockdown coronavirus pandemic thing sort of eases up, and people feel comfortable sort of traveling around again, I definitely recommend people who have been studying for a long enough time period, and have got that sort of flexibility to sort of say no to the sort of resort sort of strip holidays every now and again. A lot of people, a lot of the youngsters in the UK now, they'll go to Ibiza or Mallorca. And don't get me wrong, I've been to Ibiza loads of times. I've done the strip holidays, the sun holidays and stuff. But the just sort of backpacking through different countries. It's a total different experience, and I think you meet a lot more people on your journey as well by doing that, from different parts of the world, from different cities, and yeah, it just sort of, you learn a little bit more about what's possible.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And so how was it when you kind of went to London and you moved to London then? How did you find that coming like from Liverpool, not having left Liverpool before, really?
it was a bit mad actually. I'd obviously left Liverpool quite a lot, but never to live anywhere else. And
Yeah.
I moved to London to live by myself. I didn't know anyone there. I didn't, know the people I was going to be working with, know the people I was going to be living with. It was all new to me. It was a bit of a leap into the unknown. But no, it was really fun actually, and I made up that I've done it. But yeah, sort of getting the train down there and then getting on a bus in London and then realising after an hour of sitting on the bus that maybe the bus is not the best use of public transport in London, and you've got to get the underground everywhere, and people call the underground different to the overground when they're both just a train, and getting used to all that kind of stuff as well.
No, it's the tube.
Sorry, the
It's
tube.
the
The
tube.
tube. Yeah.
This is my inner Londoner like coming out now. Like they're not trains, it's the tube.
Yeah, or I'm just used to a bus or a train. So yeah, there's lots of things to learn about living in. I always say to people, like, when they say what's London like to live there, it's more than a city to me. It's like a city of cities. It's so big, and I don't think I truly appreciated the size of other cities until I moved to London. And then you're sort of in the middle of it, and you're an hour away from everything else. It's crazy, but no, it's great, and I really enjoyed it. It was hard. Don't get me wrong; it's hard sometimes because my family and my support system weren't there. My girlfriend at the time in Liverpool, she was doing her PhD. Fortunately, now she's my fiance. But yeah, so it was like, how do we have this long-term relationship for the first time in our lives as well, and how do we make that work? And making sure that sort of I spent sort of energy on quality time in terms of relationships, in terms of friendships, to make sure I didn't lose them. But I definitely recommend doing it. At the end of the day as well, if you plan it properly and it's not for you, then you can always go back home. Like I said, I'll go back to Liverpool one day. It's not like I'm moving away forever.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And, it is interesting as well to hear about how you sort of managed to like maintain like a really good, like, it must have been a really good relationship because she's your fiance now. Congratulations.
I know. She should be my wife, but the coronavirus, I have to put it back.
Yeah, how did you find sort of doing that long distance? Because did you do it for like 3 years or was it longer?
About 2.5 years I was in London for.
Okay.
So yeah, it was meant to be hard, and on the face of it, it's hard. And looking back, like, I think to myself, like, oh my god, like, how did it go? Sort of at some points, I think it was like 6 weeks without seeing each other. But if you love each other, you kind of just make it work. And that probably sounds really cheesy now I've said it. But it's true. At the end of the day, we do love each other, and we know that we want to be together. And I think we both push each other professionally as well, and we push each other to achieve our goals, which is really important for the relationship. So she was pushing me to start my graduate scheme, to get my foot into the market and sort of world, and because she knew that's what I wanted to do. And at the same time, I was pushing her to stay in Liverpool and finish her PhD to do what she wants to do. So we were at a point in our lives where we were just so busy with sort of trying to grow professionally and achieve like sort of quite our goals quite quickly after university, to get us into a position where that when we do link back up, we're happy and we can enjoy what we do. And fortunately, we're living together now in Nottingham. I remember I got the call from her when I was in London, and she was like, I've been offered a job by one of the universities in Nottingham, and I was like, oh, brilliant, so I'll move to Nottingham with you then. Straight away, didn't even have to think about it. And then so Liverpool to London to Nottingham, and growing up, I'd never think that I'd be in London or Nottingham. So it just shows you sort of how you end up in places when you do start moving, or you are open to moving around.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it does sound like it's something where you can still as well have your ties to your home. Like, I think that would be something that I would be really worried about if I moved, is like losing ties to home. But you've shown really, like, you can always go back to where you came from, and moving gives you new opportunities.
Yeah, it does. It allows you to see different different things as well, and different quirks about different cities. But yeah, I think having that tie to home is super important to keep yourself grounded as well. I know some people in the past who moved away for university and they didn't come home back to Liverpool, and you kind of think, will they ever move back? Or you don't really hear of them in that sort of circle of friends anymore and stuff. Whereas I've got a really close knit group of friends who are all still based in Liverpool, and we'll meet up in different cities around the UK. They'll come visit me in Nottingham. I'll obviously go home to see family and see them when I'm there. This weekend, we're going to meet in the Peak District to go camping with a few of my friends. So, yeah, definitely sort of try and keep hold of the people that you love in your life as well. It doesn't mean that you have to lose them.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I just love how you've managed to kind of keep all the good stuff you've had, but still do all the like cool stuff as well. Like, I think often there's like this kind of like wrong sort of impression given to like young people that it's either this or that. If you leave this you'll lose that, but you'll gain this. And it's you kind of can, if you plan like you said, get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, it's definitely it should never be it's this or that when it comes to what you enjoy and what you like doing and who you like spending time with and things like that. I think what you've got to ask yourself as a person is, where do I need to spend my time and energy? Obviously time's infinite, but we it's not infinite for us. We only have so many hours in a day, and we only have so many days in a week and all that. So, where can we spend our time and energy? And I think, picking up the phone to stay in touch with people is really important. So I will regularly have even just like a 20-30 minute chat with friends back home, once every week, just to check in on them. And for me, that half an hour chat is where I'm deciding to spend my time and energy, instead of, I don't know, maybe doing something else like watching television or even socializing with people in the new area where I'm living. So yeah, I think, it can be possible, providing that you put the effort in.
Yeah, I think I really like how you explain it like that. Sort of, it's kind of like you put in the energy to get what you enjoy, and like it's just really well. You've explained it so well and like very eloquently, because I don't think it's very like, it's something like when you grow up, and like I found this as well, like as you get older, your friends will spread out a lot more.
Yeah. And, there's been hundreds, thousands of people who I've known over time where I thought to myself, like, okay, I think I'll be friends with these people when I'm older. And it doesn't necessarily turn out that way, because it's a two-way thing. Like, you can put time and energy into friendships, and they might not put the time and energy in back, or you don't feel that they're putting it back, or whatever that might be as well. So, it's you're in charge of who your friends, aren't you? You're in charge of the people who you spend time with. You're in charge of what you do with your own time. So as long as you're prioritizing it in terms of making sure that you're doing it with the right people, then it should work out, I hope.
Yeah, I think that's definitely like good advice. And like obviously you will always kind of have the other side, like you said, it is a two-way street, but that's kind of also part of growing up. It's not the best, like, I don't want to paint an image that's all going to be like rainbows and sunshine. You'll stay friends with everyone you meet forever.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, that doesn't happen either, but it's kind of, using your time and energy to control what you can control.
Definitely. And it's also like thinking about it, like the quality of that friendship as well. Like, there's different people who you meet along your journey in life who you'd still class as friends, even if you see them 20 years later, and you'd still say hello and give them a hug or whatever that might be. But they mightn't be a friend that you call every other week to have a chat with or a catch up with. So, there's different levels of friendship for sure. I think, where we started on this point is to make sure that the people who really add value to your life and the people you really enjoy spending time with is they're the ones that you keep close. And for me, we've mentioned friends quite a lot, but that's the same for family for me as well. There's I come from a massive family, and it's really important that I stay family focused as well, and sort of I know when we all went into lockdown, like just phoning like my uncle who I hadn't spoke to in 2 months because I had no chance to see him, and just saying like, "You okay?" As simple as that. And then little things like that, because it's important to me that I stay close to those sort of people.
There's really good stuff there. And so I just like want to ask, kind of, you've mentioned like a few challenges along the way, but what have sort of been the main challenges to getting yourself to where you are now?
That's a good question, actually, mate. I think one of the main challenges, in all honesty, I think just the determination to keep going and keep exploring different new opportunities. Um, I find a lot of people, from what I can see anyway, is that they'll land a job, or they'll land a home, or they'll land an area, and they will sort of be happy to a certain degree where they are, and they'll get like a level of routine in their life where it just becomes normal to the same thing week in, week out, where that and that's fine for some people. If that's what you like doing, then and you find enjoyment from that, then keep doing it. I think for me though, is I like change. I like to do different things. I like to take on new opportunities. I like to visit new places. So the constant challenge for me is finding new things to do, and keeping that sort of motivation to want to do new things as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, how did you find like lockdown then? Because that is like the complete opposite, really, isn't it? You're just stuck in the same place.
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me this because they were concerned for me. The first couple of weeks, I was literally bouncing off the walls, mate. I was going mad. I was like, "Oh, this is going to be so hard." And one of the things which I actually did have to do was implement some sort of routine in my life to make sure that I was good. So, started doing the regular exercise. I started spending more time in the kitchen, with my fiance, sort of cooking with her as well, which is really nice. And sort of just like trying to find different things to do at home. So I still had the same mindset where I want to do new things and I want to do different things. It was just sort of having to be a little bit more creative about what those things were, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think that's also like a really good skill to have, to be able to be creative about the new things you do, because I mean sometimes you're constrained not just by like a lockdown across the whole country, but by your budget maybe, or like your time. And it's sort of like, being creative to come up with new things to do, depending on your circumstances, is actually like a really good skill to have. So you're not getting like bored or complacent, really.
Yeah, and especially when you talk about like being happy with the new stuff you try as well. And I always look at like my little cousin or my little godson and stuff, and just see like the genuine joy in their eyes when they're doing something so simple for the first time. And it's like, one of my teachers said to me, when I was in school, and I'll always remember this. He said, "Be childlike but not childish." And what I always think of that is try and find enjoyment from new things. Do things, try new things, all that kind of stuff. Just don't be silly. Don't be stupid while you're doing it as well, I suppose. But yeah, be childlike, not childish, is something that he said, which always sort of resonated with me when I'm sort of eager to try something new for the first time, I suppose.
I love that. And it's like, it just reminds me of something. I posted it on the Hey It Gets Better Instagram account like last week, and it was sort of like, what is a real adult? And everyone was answering things like, oh, I've got a flat, or I'm married now and I still don't feel like an adult.
Yeah.
Or like, I have a full-time job, but I don't feel like an adult. And it's sort of like this idea of adulthood is like some sort of monotonous, boring thing that you do. It's just like, it doesn't exist. It's sort of like the myth of the real adult, I think.
Yeah, it's like what's the word? Adulting. Like, this adulting is hard. But yeah, I think when that sort of hits as well, is I seen a meme online, and it was said something along the lines of, when I was 15, I thought that all these 30-year-olds had the sort of had the plan and had it all together, and then you sort of turn 30 and you think, no, no, not a chance. Like, and then now you're looking at all the 45-year-olds thinking maybe they've got it together. And then when you get to 45, it's probably not the same either. But yeah, I mean, if there should never be pressure on people to think, oh, I need to do something, because there is a lot of pressure on people, isn't there? And maybe not so much in the UK
Yeah.
anymore, but there's a ton of pressure on people around the world to be like an adult at a certain age and go and get that job, or get that get on the property ladder, or get married, have kids, all these things, um, and at a certain time, at a certain pace as well. I think what I've found is, usually when, with the groups of friends that I've had growing up, and there's been many different groups, and um, a group, it'll happen at the same time to a group. So, they'll start to get like engaged and get houses around the same time as each other, because they've got that close friendship. And maybe there's a bit of pressure from that friendship group to do it as well. Whereas other groups that I know, they're still traveling the world, but they're sort of a group and community together as well. So there's a pressure on them to probably not do it. So I think it's just identifying those pressures, and where those pressures are coming from, and just telling yourself, at the end of the day, this is my life. I'm going to choose how to live it. I'll buy a house when I'm ready to buy a house. I'll have kids when I'm ready to have kids. Those sort of things.
Yeah, I think that's really true. Like, you don't really think as well about kind of the things you see your friends doing as like a pressure on you until you actually like sit really and think about it. I mean, I'm dreading the moment that I feel like in like 3 years' time, my timeline is just going to be like people buying houses, getting engaged. And I'm like, no, I'm not ready to see all of that. I'm still like a kid, but I'm not.
Yeah, I think for me, it's to um, appreciate that's happening to them, and sort of, enjoy that with them. My uncle, who's a year younger than me, has just bought his first house, and I'm still renting in Nottingham, because I don't want to buy a house yet. I quite like renting, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So for me, this works. For him, though, he wants to buy a house, and some people would probably look at that and go, "Oh, someone in my family who's younger than me has already got on the property ladder." For me, it's total opposite. I'm like, "Well done! Like, if that's what you want to do, and you're happy to live in that house and that road for the next 10, 15 years, and that's great." Fair play to you.
Yeah, I guess as well, like everyone sort of wants different things in life. And sort of like it's got to be like, hopefully if you do it to other people as well, people aren't going to do it to you. Because I know like everyone loves to give their opinion on things. Like, I do want to buy a house, but I always get everyone like, why do you want to buy a house if you rent is better? And it's these things are quite personal as well.
Yeah.
So it's about like knowing what you want. And if someone else wants something differently, don't like knock them down because of it. Just like you said, like celebrate it with them, really.
Yeah, exactly. And don't feel the pressure to do it. If you know what you, I think that it's understanding what you want from it. So, for myself, I like where I live. I would like to live in a different area of Nottingham to see what that's like as well. So that'll probably be my next accommodation. Um, so yeah, I don't fancy buying a house in Nottingham right now, because ultimately I don't really know enough about the city to choose where I wanna live. Um, whereas people back home in Liverpool, they know the city, they've been there all their life. They know the road or the neighbourhood that they wanna settle in. So, um, I think, trying to get onto a point of what rambling is, basically, don't sort of feel peer pressured into making rash decisions either about these big commitments. Buying a house, buying a car, all these sort of things, the big financial decisions that you've got to make, that, nowadays, people, who are getting a mortgage for the first time, you're probably looking at like 30 years plus of paying that back. So
Yeah.
definitely don't make it a rash decision. Like, you know, be cemented in that decision, and be comfortable with it 100% before making it. Definitely don't feel peer pressure into doing anything like that.
I think, when you say like peer pressure, I always think back to like primary school and like learning like what peer pressure is. And it seems like such, one of those things you think, oh, it's like a kid thing. Don't be peer pressured into doing this. But actually, like when you're an adult, it still like is a factor in like life and something you need to be aware of.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's like a subconscious factor a lot of the time as well, mate. Like, because you see your friends doing this, or you see people in your family around the same age doing these things, you think, "Oh God, have I got to do it?" And I think it's almost like a subconscious peer pressure, that unless you really take a step back and reevaluate it, you might not even spot that it is a peer pressure around you.
Definitely. And I think as well with social media and things, like Instagram and well, that is social media, but you see what people want you to see as well. So you're not actually getting the full picture. So it might look great that, your mate has bought their first house, but you've not seen the mortgage they've signed up to or the help they got maybe from their mum and dad and things like that, because everyone's situation's different and you don't get the full picture on Instagram.
Yeah.
So that's really important as well.
This is starting to sound like a anti-mortgage podcast. Like, don't feel the need to buy. But no, I think you're totally right, mate, in terms of what people put on Instagram and on social. They want to show the best photos. They want to show the best life at the end of the day. Every time people get a like on social media, they get an endorphin rush. So they want to get as many likes as they possibly can as well. But again, it's for me, it's celebrate it. If someone wants to show you this lovely new picture of their house, then they probably want to show you it for a reason. So celebrate it with them. Don't feel pressured that you need to be acting like that, and certainly don't compare yourself from an age point of view. I'd say a lot of people I've grown up with being like, oh, I need to get married by this age, or I need to get a house by this age and stuff like that. Like, why? Like, what age really got to do with it at the end of the day? Like, definitely prepare for your future, prepare for your retirement, pension, savings, all that kind of stuff. Yes, do that. That's common sense. But, don't set targets on, don't set someone else's target, basically, of trying to keep up with anyone, because what's not to say that in the next 12 months you're going to get a much better job, which allows you to get a better mortgage, which allows you to get a better house than you would have had in the first place. There's lots of things that come into it.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I know it did sound a bit anti-mortgage there, but no, I think I feel like such an adult because I checked my credit score last night for the first time ever, and I'm just like in the mortgage world now, being like, okay, this is what a mortgage is.
Yeah, adulting, mate. That's what you're doing. You're an adult.
I know. I felt really weird. It literally takes like 2 seconds as well just to sign up to like Experian, but I was like, did it, and I was like, I am an adult.
Yeah. Now that's it. It's like different things for different people, isn't it? I mean, I don't get wrong. I feel very much like an adult now. But there's, like I said, there's still things that I want to try. There's still things that I want to do. And I'll really make sure I do them as well before I decide to properly settle down. I think it's that difference, isn't it, between being an adult and settling down as well, and clearly understanding the difference between that.
Yeah, definitely. It's just like a lot more complex than like one day you wake up and you're an adult and all the other days you're not. It's just like, it's definitely more complex.
Yeah. And I think you'll probably think you're an adult before everyone else around you thinks you're an adult.
Yeah, that's definitely something I think I've learned moving back home with my mum and dad as well from after uni is, like I'm working a full-time job, but I still need to like tell them where I'm going.
Yeah. I'm 28 now, and my mum still refers to me and my brother as the kids. So yeah, I don't think that'll ever change.
So yeah, no, this has been like a great chat, and I just want to kind of give you a chance now at the end to really gonna give you sort of like, what is your like one piece of advice that you would give to someone who right now they just feel like they're down in a slump and life isn't going their way? What would you say to that person?
Yeah, I think the big thing to remember is that there is other people out there who are probably going to be in a similar situation, or have the similar sort of mental state to you right now, in terms of it's not great. At the end of the day, you're in charge of what you do. You're in charge of your life. No one's going to come and pick you up out of that slump. You're going to have to do it yourself. It's on you. It's on you to go and put a plan in place, to speak to the right people. It's on you to put that time and energy into getting out of that slump and making your life better, making your life more enjoyable, because no one else will do it for you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you found it helpful. I really appreciate all the support I get for Hey It Gets Better. It would be amazing if you could subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to your podcast. If you want some more content, then you can always follow us on Instagram at Hey It Gets Better. And for more stories of inspiration and resources to help you get through life, visit our website, heyitgetsbetter.com. I hope you have a wonderful week, and remember, hey, it gets better.